Welcome back. It was an absolute slobber knocker between 𝘀�culture and 𝘂𝗰𝗵𝗶𝗹𝗀, but 𝘀�culture do take the win. And now we move on to the clash of the Titans, the gods of the... Oh, hang on. Sorry, I was looking at tomorrow's schedule. It's it's VCS Best Team Secret. Kind of bottom feeders in the VCS, though VCS has played a lot better recently. It is worth giving them credit for that. Welcome to the VCS English Analyst Desk. 𝘀𝗶𝗹𝗀. This is quite the series we have in front of us, and 𝘀𝗶𝗃, I'm going to give you first word.
Well, it is the match of the week, as we have highlighted before. I mean, week with an E and an A, so there's a little bit of a tingle there. But yeah, let's start with the positive for both of these teams. I mean, both have one win each. They both also have looked decent in some of their losses. And BTS, I mean, recently their win was quite an upset, I would say. And they haven't just beaten any team. It was kind of a good win for them, for sure. And they, of course, look to continue and make it a little bit of a streak. So we don't really expect them initially to place like bottom 2 of the table. And yeah, if they can keep their form they had last time, they can surely improve from the standings where they are currently.
I like that our first series of the day, it included two teams that were competing for the number 2 spot. And so the win gives you the number 2. It's such an important thing. Here, it almost feels like both teams are trying not to lose to fall to the 7th spot. Because again, there's no relegation, but obviously you want to keep yourself high in those standings. And a win here would put you on par with SBTC, especially for, 𝘀𝗀𝗀𝗀. That's a huge win because they just beat them earlier this week. So they would actually take the 5th place in the standings, which is absurd to see how far they could actually climb in just a short amount of time with a couple of key wins.
Well, it is the VCS. It is a lot of games played in not a lot of time, so things are very fluid. One bad week really costs you, and just as much as one great week really pays off. Let's start over on the side of BTS, because they, of course, are coming off a win. They did get a huge upset. 𝘀𝗀𝗃, do you want to tell us all about it?
I mean, it was quite an upset win. It was a 2-1 win, so it wasn't like an absolute stomp all of a sudden. It didn't really come completely out of nowhere, but it was a decent performance from them. And yeah, especially the mid lane and the bot lane of these teams. I mean, with 𝘀𝗀𝗋 and with 𝘀𝗀𝗋, they really showed up in this. And they are also looking for me like the carries today, maybe for with BTS, and Team Secret is maybe kind of lacking there with 𝘀𝐷𝐷𝐷𝐷 being kind of new, and with 𝘂𝗀𝗀 and I think the other mid laners called 𝘁𝗀𝗀. They are not really the best mid laners of the VCS, I dare say. But on the other hand, you have Team Secret, of course, with their top side, who are also very strong on their own.
Yeah, Rebel, do you have any thoughts maybe about Team Secret, where they want to play through, where their strengths do lay?
I think pretty much the only place I'm really consistently looking is at DNK. 𝘀𝐷𝐷𝐷 is also quite good, but still, I feel like he hasn't been able to completely take over a game the way that Artemis would, which is that's a big name to actually come up against. But that's kind of the competition he's competing against here, is trying to live up to names like that to be able to carry a team that otherwise is relatively weak across the board. Jerry and 𝘂𝗀𝗀 haven't been very incredible throughout most of this. 𝘂𝗀 really hasn't actually showed up too much as a support, as a veteran, and Nagia has not been the play, nor has Simon for the most part. So it's DNK and 𝘀𝐷𝐷𝐷𝐷 are the two that are always on my mind as the two that can make the most happen. Now, there are sparkling moments for Jerry and for Nagia and for Simon and for 𝘂𝗀, but for the most part, if you're looking for consistency here, those are the only two positions you're getting it out of.
For sure, and looking maybe at some draft things that we've noticed, how do these two teams like to play, and how do those things match up against their opponent? I'll let you talk about 𝘀𝗀𝗀𝗀, 𝘀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀.
I mean, about 𝘀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀, it's really important to look at Ryuk, because he hasn't really been like the carry top laner for them. They have put him on Wukong, where he was decent against 𝘀𝗀𝗃, I would say, where they put like the one win where he get like the Wukong into Jace matchup that was really favoring him. There's a lot of cannon coming out of him, and a lot of Gnar, who are kind of okay. They are kind of a bit of carry top laners, continuing with the champion picks, but they aren't really like the picks he played really well on, which is a little bit of unfortunate to say for him, I guess. But I think 𝘀𝗀𝗀 is pretty interesting, because he always plays these volatile picks with the Sylas, with the LeBlanc, with the Yasuo, even though with the Vex and the Zoe. And yeah, I'm hoping that he pulled these off today, because I think he is individually favored in this matchup today. So I really hope that BTS can manage to get a strong mid laner for him.
And from Team Secret's perspective, how do they like to play it out, and how does it match up against BTS Rebel?
It's very strange. They've had a couple of swaps, especially between 𝘀𝗰𝗋 and 𝘁𝗀𝗀 throughout the majority of the split. And what seems to actually work for them inside of a bunch of games is usually when they're able to have some semblance of attack from the mid lane. Usually it's 𝘀𝗀𝗋 able to move out, whether it's Galio, LeBlanc, whatever that might be, and helping assist in a lot of different positions. Not only with DNK in the jungle, which is kind of his first step, but when they're also able to get themselves a powerful bot lane, something like either Lucian or Jhin compared with pretty much any support, because V1 is not doing most things in the bottom lane anyway, it actually culminates in a pretty decent recipe for the team. So the idea is just like powerful bot lane that's not going to lose immediately, and then you take your mid laner, you move it into jungle, and then you combine that with your powerful bot lane in the mid game, and that's the best that you've got for the side of Team Secret. And again, it comes down to those pieces, DNK and Eddie. You get DNK ahead, you get Eddie in a decent position, and you combine the two pieces. And look at that. That's where Team Secret actually finds their success.
Well, speaking of those two players, we'll stay on them for a moment. What kind of champions do we want to see them picking up, focusing mainly in on DNK, who has been a shining light for this team? Where do you want to see him go draft-wise, 𝘀cie?
Draft-wise, I would like to see him maybe back on the Graves, which is something that might trigger the other German analyst here, but he was having done decent success on this pick, so I would definitely want to see him again there. And he's also like one of the shining lights on this team, so give him something that has some agency. I mean, the Graves is a champion that has some strength, especially in the early game, and he doesn't even scale that poorly. So if like maybe the top and mid laner play some decent setup for him, and he's the one dealing the damage, it could be the wave to win for Team Secret for sure.
Certainly could be. Rebel, what kind of draft are you hoping BTS will go towards, particularly specifically with their champions?
It's a matter with 𝘀𝘀 of trying to find the thing that's worked for them. And so far from what I've seen from BTS, what works best for them is really shocking. Instead of fighting all the time in the early game, they need to do exactly the opposite of that. Because what we've seen from this team, even into prior iterations, the names organization back when they were, I believe it was Overpower was what it was. I could be wrong about that. I think it's % actually, because I'm a fool and I keep swapping those two specifically. Even back into that day, we always talked about how, okay, this team finds some success when they actually go and they roam their support and they fight with Pantheon in the first 5 levels. And that's always been this kind of stigma behind the combination of drakthar and the remainder of this team. But as we saw against some competition, SBTC specifically, and also in their series up against who was, I believe, Cerberus, when they're able to slow pace an early game and not give up too much, they look good. The big pick that actually pops out to me is Graves. Why have they not been playing Graves? It's been banned from them once, barring the last series where, of course, it was banned 2 games after it completely blew the back out of SBTC. But that was drakthar's kind of pinch-hitting champion when he came into the roster. Play the champion. I know that's also going to trigger 𝘀𝗋𝗋. 𝘀𝗋𝗋 somewhere, he's going to smack both of us on the back of the neck when he finds out we've been advocating for Graves. This is a contested pick during the series because both these junglers want to be able to farm up and play a slower paced game. And I think that's going to be helpful for BTS, especially when drakthar's the one piloting it.
Yeah, I completely agree. drakthar is so often the difference between a win and a loss for BTS. But let's talk about BTS's last match just briefly. They went up against SBTC and they did take the win in what we considered a pretty massive upset. Now, 𝘀cie, you said it was 2-1. It was close, but a win's a win. How much should we read into that, 𝘀cie?
I mean, they bet a team that is on paper much stronger than Team Secret, so that, of course, first hand is speaking very much in the favor of BTS there. But you don't want to give yourself false hope, I would say. I mean, Team Secret also they have looked good in some losses, as I said earlier, and they also took 1 win. I don't remember quite who it was. I think it was against Team Flash, which of course doesn't really speak in their favor. But I mean, Team Secret is a team that has distinct strengths and weaknesses, and BTS has to look out because I mean the only one where they have the clear edge, I would say, is the mid lane. And otherwise, I think Team Secret definitely is also up to the task. So let's wait and see what the draft is all about. I mean, gotta say the Graves will be a very contested pick, whether our analysts like it or not.
Well, just before we go into draft, let's put our money where our mouth is. That is not the real draft on screen, don't worry. And bring up our predictions so everyone knows where we stand. And as everyone gets a read of those, I have BTS, Rebel has BTS, but he has them dropping a game, and 𝘀cie is alone with predicting Secret in a 2-1. You both think it's going to go to 3, though, but let's head into the draft and see how we get started here. And 𝘀𝗶𝗋 has been banned out, so neither team can make the mistake of picking him.
Thank goodness. Hey, look at that. 𝘁𝗏 is in today.
Oh, true. 𝘁𝗏 is in today, so no 𝘁𝗶𝗋. And I mean, this doesn't really speak into their favor, but I'm glad they give 𝘁𝗏 another chance. I mean, if you give him a chance, then maybe against BTS is like the team where it's the most forgivable, because they are like the team that is the aside from Team 𝘁𝗏, probably the worst team on paper they face, because they are down in the bottom 3 themselves as Team Secret. So maybe that's like the angle there. But on another note, maybe start 𝘁𝗏 against a very strong team, because you might lose anyway, and maybe there you can see if he has some promise left in him, or if he should just not play all split. Last time he looked awful, let's not sugarcoat it, but I mean, maybe against another bottom tier team, he gets another chance and makes something out of it.
I think 𝘁𝗏 got kind of a bad rap after the first week, and while I don't disagree with 𝘁𝗔 coming in, I feel like 𝘁𝗏, we've seen moments of goodness from him to know that the ceiling is probably higher than 𝘁𝗔's. 𝘁𝗔 was playing better than 𝘁𝗏 was in the first series of the split, yes, but I think 𝘁𝗏 can reach a level of play that is, at least from what we saw, just inaccessible to 𝘁𝗔, and hopefully that's what TS is kind of going for here. I want to note they did ban the Graves also. They had to make sure that wasn't getting a first pick. I'm really shocked that 𝘁𝗏cie went like 7 games this split with that champion just slipping through draft, never having taken it for Directhar even a single time. It's almost a crime to me, having found that fact out.
For sure, and I'm also kind of already feeling bad for 𝘁𝗏, because it's a very strong mid jungle duo already picked up for 𝘀𝗀 and 𝘁𝗏 there with the LeBlanc Lee Sin. I mean, it's just easy CC setup with the LeBlanc, high damage output from the Lee Sin. He just needs to land the Q on the track that is already snared. Won't be too hard for Directhar, I suppose, and 𝘁𝗏 picks your favorite champion with the Syndra.
It's so easy right here for not only Directhar to access mid lane, but also for 𝘁𝗀 to access mid lane, especially into a Jhin. Pick any ADC with a mild amount of wave clear, and 𝘁𝗀 just gets to roam all over the opposing support to any extent, and that's just not good for 𝘁𝗏. Like, it's not good. Like, he's somebody whose confidence is probably already shaken after the first split, getting subbed out immediately. Like, to have him in a game like this, which is like kind of important to make sure that TS doesn't fall further into standings and basically only have the 1 game win against the side of 𝘁𝗏, it feels like it's a lot of weight on the shoulders of 𝘁𝗏 to really perform. Like, it feels like if he does badly in this first game, that they might just swap him out immediately, because they just they won't put any more faith into him. It's like a last chance little attempt for 𝘁𝗏. I hope you're right. I hope they give him the whole series, because again, I'd like to see him more than I'd like to see 𝘁𝗔 on this roster, but who's to say?
Yes, and it's also an immortal mid laner against not just Leon or Lee Sin, and also the LeBlanc. I mean, this is at least the skill matchup in the mid lane where he can maybe like show some promise in the first few levels, but I don't think he will play the mid lane in a fair 1v1 there. I think he has a target on his head basically for Team versus 𝘁𝗏, that they will really put a lot into him. Also, the misfortune we haven't seen in a while. I mean, the last seems it was mostly Jhin against 𝘁𝗄lios. 𝘁𝗄lios, of course, banned this time, because AD carries a pincer role this time, and maybe get connected. But that was almost an insta-lock, and I don't hate it, because they will just weak side Ryuk anyway, I suppose. So it's not a terrible pick at all. And we are back to Misfortune Leona, which is very easy to execute. I don't dislike it either.
They actually haven't drafted a losing lane, which is kind of the entire purpose behind 𝘁𝗏cie. They did this against SBTC. They ran the exact same thing. Ryuk actually had a really impressive Renekton game, which I was happy to see. For absolutely no reason, 𝘁𝗏 decides to take the Gnar into it. I guess he is comfortable that Ryuk won't be able to kill him in the first couple levels. That's not a bet I would take on any champion for 𝘁𝗏 into any matchup against any top laner, because he just is that volatile. But it feels like a 𝘁𝗏cie draft that actually feels quite nice. They've got winning lanes, or at least the equal lanes to work with across the board. They've got an aggressive jungler. Directhar isn't on the Graves, but he's on something that can work in the earlier stages of the game to help out his team. They do get outscaled, I think, by the likes of the Syndra, Qiyana, Gnar. The team fighting is definitely there from the side of TS. But I kind of like what both teams have put together here. I'm liking 𝘁𝗏cie quite a bit more.
Yeah, same actually. I mean, it's a winning lane. It's also easy to execute. They do get outscaled, but I don't think there will be a late game in this game if they play anything. If they don't not play much below their standard, then this shouldn't be a game that goes to late game, because Team Secret is also a bit abusable, let's put it like that. And they draft. It just looks like they have a plan, and it just looks well rounded. Even though they have the Renekton, but the Renekton also has its place in this draft. So I'm also like very heavily favoring BTS here.
We have the opinion of both of our analysts thinking that BTS have managed to draft themselves into a winning position, but Team Secret definitely still have paths to victory. Watching DNK on to Qiyana is something I'm very excited about. And with this, we will, for now, say goodbye to 𝘀cie as we get ready to head on to the Rift. We'll get his thoughts after Game 1, don't worry. But for now, it will be just myself and Rebel Fox. It is Jin misfortune. This is kind of everything we hate in a draft, coming together all at once. But I do really like that 𝘀rie is on LeBlanc. I think this is a really strong pick for him.
I agree with that. I think 𝘀rie stepped up pretty big last series against the side of SBTC. And we've been waiting for that for literally years, because 𝘀rie has been this player that we keep doubting is like, he's pretty good. Like, he's a solid mid laner. But then, like, somebody has to be bottom half when you've got a bunch of really good mid laners. 𝘀rie, I want to see him finally make that step into top half mid laner, because if he does, all of a sudden, especially, again, we talked about untapped potential at the beginning of the splits. I want to see players like Drakthar and 𝘀rie kind of achieve what it is that we can see them play consistently. And if they're able to do that, then this team looks a lot more formidable, especially with players like 𝘀𝗻𝗄. He's stepping up pretty well on the bottom side of the map. 𝘀𝗻𝗄 is 𝘀𝗻𝗄. Oh my goodness, are we getting a handshake start at the beginning of the game? What sportsmanship.
It's a true miracle. The VCS are not going for insane fights at level 1. They have decided that they're just happy letting the game begin on even footing. A true rarity here in the VCS. Both junglers starting on the top side, wanting to path down towards the bot. What do you think of this decision, Rebel?
Interesting. It is going to cost Nagia a lot to help with this, which I think is perhaps the biggest thing. You'll see a DNK end up on the bottom side, but it is unlikely DNK is going to be able to make a massive impact into the Leona lane when, like, it's very difficult against the Rakan. When you have like a decent push, you can always let the wave bounce, as well as the side of Skye if they decide to go for, just shoving as much as possible. And if Eddie and 𝘀𝗏 actually play up as far as they are right this second, there could be problems with trying to find this gank timing as it is.
Yeah. And, hang on. Nothing happening here, just a little bit of poke back and forth. Apologize, I was just getting a drink right as things began to happen.
Oh, my bad.
𝘁𝗏𝗏 doing well to trade here up against 𝘀𝘀rie, but both of them do have pot, so it's not like anything really is going to stick.
Not for the most part. And again, I'm looking at the effects that both junglers will have. They both full clear down from their top side into their bottom side now. And with the wave kind of being in the middle, both of them are susceptible to ganks potentially, and especially when it comes to the bottom side 𝘁𝗏𝗏, if they both decide to go for something like that. The vision is there from the side of TS, only because they have the vision inside the river on top of the 𝘁𝗁𝗏𝗏. But the push on bot lane is there for the side of both 𝘀𝗻𝗄 and then also 𝘀𝗻𝗄, which is that's support for the bottom river that's going to be there. Mid lane seems to be relatively even, although it looks like 𝘀𝘀rie's almost dead. Yeah, okay, thank you, observers, for showing us this last little minute of the trade.
The standard. But yeah, he has gone very low, but again, he still does have some pots. I'd love to know how many, but we don't get to see scoreboards in the VCS. Really need that bottom. Like, I mean, if we didn't know the Raptor pit was there, what would we be doing? Oh, 𝘀𝗏 on the run, has to flash. They actually follow flash there from 𝘀𝗻𝗄, so that's actually used. And as the teleports begin to come in, it's a party in the bot lane, Rebel. And Skye at the moment think they have the better of it, but with DNK arriving, they need to play this one carefully as Ryuk goes low, but the Qiyana Q will not land. And everyone manages to evacuate under tower.
Man, it is the only reason that this doesn't remind me of North America is because no one died for that 𝘁𝗁𝗏𝗏 on the bottom side. It's kind of insane. And TS is just
could be in trouble.
Yeah, they're pushing their luck at least a little bit here, going in for the rest of this invade. If they wait too long and the redeploy comes out from 𝘀𝘀rie and 𝘀𝗻𝗄, it could be a really big issue. So I kind of wanted to see them just go ahead and snag the 𝘁𝗁𝗏𝗏 and walk away, maybe walk up to top side and take that one too. But I guess they decided that this was far more important. it looks like at least the back's coming out from Drakthar, so they should be able to walk out of the situation pretty much unscathed, having gotten the Krugs as well on top of everything else.
Yeah, they do manage to pick up the crab there. 𝘀𝗀 off to a good start. Hopefully it burns down. It does good. I always get very nervous watching junglers do that, thinking there's just going to be someone roguing in and stealing it. And with the reset, it will be the 1-to-1 scuttle split, so it is continuing to be a deathless early game, which now I understand some of you out there may be saying, 𝘀𝗀x, it's only 5 minutes in. Yeah, but this is the VCS. We expect blood by now.
Yeah, I mean, probably in 60+% of the games that we have here in the VCS, that bottom side would have led to 3+ kills minimum, like with double TP actually expended on one side and a TP expended on the other side. In fact, if anything, 𝘀𝘀cie with the even trade of Scuttle Crabs, I think ultimately ended up in their favor, because not only did they get it back for 𝘀𝗀, but also they've conserved the teleport of Glory, who now can make an impact elsewhere on the map. And they've continued to push this advantage that Ryuk has had over top of the Gnar inside of this laning phase. Got a little bit of a CS advantage. Looks like it's gonna, it'd be about an entire wave basically for in terms of stay for Ryuk. So when we talk about what's gonna happen in 2.5 minutes with a Rift Herald flip, because it inevitably happens, you do have a bit more wave pressure and you have a bit more experience in your Crocodile, given the fact that he just has a bit more of the wave access than Nagia did after he had teleported.
For sure, and this 10 CS lead in the top side, we'll see if it actually turns into anything. This Gnar is not a pick I'm super jazzed about just in general. Then again, neither is the Renekton, so maybe I just hate top lane here for these teams. Eddie does get rained upon. Trades back well, though, as the Rakan W goes in. Didn't really think it through there, as he takes a lot more than he gives.
Funny enough, this is a matchup I get to see all of the time inside of like a lot of the casting that I do, and I get to talk about it quite a bit because it's Rakan versus Leona, and it's a skill matchup for Rakan, where Rakan's whole job is to not press an ability until Leona does something, then start pressing abilities. Because if you do that, that means that Leona, when she comes in, presses Aftershock, you can deny her access to using that Aftershock aggressively against your bot laner. Although, 𝘀𝘀cie, they grab first dragon, there is aggression coming about onto the bottom side.
There is. It does get Elio's flash, but 𝘀𝗀 doesn't want to let them go. He's not level 6, though. Does not have that true display of talent, but gets a lot of damage onto 𝘀𝗀. Elio trading it back, and 𝘀𝗀 goes incredibly low, but he goes into the stealth. Traded there, 1-for-1 at the moment. It's about to be a 2-for-1. It's about to be a 3-for-1 as 𝘀𝗀 roams first.
It is 𝘀𝗀 re-entry to the starting roster here for the side of Team Secret, who gets out of lane. This is the problem with LeBlanc into most control mages nowadays. Yes, you have good trading potential, but that's about all you've got going for you in your laning phase, because your wave clear just isn't high enough. So 𝘀𝗀, first one off the draw, even though Glory has teleport. For some reason, it is 𝘀𝗀 who's able to actually get to that fight first, just because of holding that ability. If that TP comes in to help support the retreat out of that play for the side of 𝘀𝘀cie, it feels like they could have walked away or even turned on that and potentially turned around at least 1-2 kills back into their favor, but instead they end up giving a bit of gold back into the pockets of 𝘀𝗀 and this Syndra in exchange for that dragon, which is again, that's nice. Yeah, look, there's a TP ward. There's a fine little TP ward right there. Glory, what are you doing with your wave right now?
Just go to that control ward.
Who knows?
They just don't call it. He's just walking. He walks back. Oh man,
he turned around.
Got no idea. He turned around. He was roaming first. He was roaming first.
I do not know anything that's happening. I guess the thought process maybe is that the fight is effectively already over once they catch the first member, and so they're just like, maybe there's miscommunication of like, okay, is Glory coming down? Is he not coming down? Did somebody call him off? What happened right there? There's got to be much, much better communication. I'm not going to put all of it onto Glory, but I mean, a teleport ward and he was out faster and turning around during the course of a play feels like such a mistake. Look at this 50-50 coin flip. Once again, what an incredible analysts we are, being able to predict this 50-50 every single game. It's astonishing.
Well, Team Secret doesn't seem to want to opt into it. They're not tossing any coins, Rebel, as they're just letting BTS have this one. Though now 𝘀𝗀 moving over. He is level 6. Nagia is here. It's a big supreme display of talent, but it only stuns onto one. Wow. The bullet time does so much, Rebel Fox, as they take all that damage. One of them will fall. Ryuk goes low, but he doesn't die. And Team Secret, that was just awful.
What in the world? How did that happen? Team Secret looked like they were surrounding the wagons were circled. Everything was ready for them to actually take that fight. I guess Nagia just a little bit too low on the Gnar bar to be able to full engage right there, but goodness gracious, I guess it was like 𝘀𝗋𝗋's ultimate that maybe kind of turned away everything. It just prevented Team Secret from turning that corner. I thought maybe 𝘁𝗀𝗋 would be able to come up with a stun, but it just did not happen. And they just lose everything. They lost the Rift Herald. They lost the fight. Of all the predictions to make about what happened in this situation, that was the last one I thought I was going to have to talk about.
I just don't understand why do this? Just give the Rift Herald up. It's okay. You don't have to give the Rift Herald and 𝘁𝗀𝗋. This is shocking.
You know, we have like the Twitch chat, like the meme, we're damage. We're brain right now. Like, I don't understand how we're gooning this man.
Me and 𝘀𝗋𝗋 discovered the real conspiracy of the VCS a long time ago. Those players are hooked up to brain machines, and they're not very good. Sometimes they turn off. And they need to restart the brain machine in this one, because that decision-making was shocking.
And it was. And they gave up the advantage they had for 𝘁𝗀𝗋 on the bottom side of the map. It's now just been eviscerated. It's just completely gone. In fact, it's a 400 gold advantage back into the favor of 𝘀𝗀𝗋. They're trying the same play to the bottom side yet again.
Yeah, they're gonna go for it. 𝘀𝗀𝗋 is here, has that water blade locked and loaded. 𝘁𝗀𝗋's in a lot of trouble, but he's not going down quite yet. They need to actually finish the damage onto him. They need to kill him, Rebel. They manage it, but it's too late because now it gets traded back.
Little late of a flash there, Eddie. Like, he's waiting so long to put in damage. I think maybe thinking he didn't need to burn the flash for it, but ends up costing the life of his jungler just off the back of not being able to make that play happen. And of course, the response elsewhere on the map. This is a nice little kind of play of tempo that's coming out here where right now, 𝘀𝗀𝗋, who had the Rift Herald, was able to pop it down so that he can actually get charges on what I believe is the mid tower and try to get some gold into his and LeBlanc's pocket to help take back control of what is this jungle mid combination. That, again, since 𝘁𝗀𝗋 has been able to go since DNK found a couple of kills, it was probably looking quite precarious. But here, turning that right back around into their pockets. This top half of the map for 𝘀𝗀𝗋 looking fantastic with advantages everywhere. This is the one.
Easy. Easy as it can be.
That's a out of 10, that is a 1 out of 10 play for the 𝘀𝗀𝗋 fan club. We know just how talented he is. He should have done that faster, should have killed a lot faster.
That was,
but
that looked like me. Like, it worked. Don't get me wrong. It worked, but that looked like me on Lee Sin, and I do not play Lee Sin.
That was,
as Nagia, moving forward, trading onto Ryuk, but it is just going to be a trade.
This is a situation, that's for sure. Somehow it is that, like...
Under tower we go. He gets knocked into the tower with Friends Player Talent, but the Q misses on the follow-up. Oh my god. Rebel, kill me. Kill me now if he gets a kill. Oh, he doesn't, thank god. He didn't have a Q. This is...
He didn't press it the whole time. He had used it in the seconds leading up to that play. I watched his health bar grow. He had it back. He was greeting to hit both of them. Ryuk, you outplayed that situation, then went back in and didn't hit your Q button to give you the heal that was going to be necessary. These teams, they're destroying me right now, 𝘀𝗋𝗋. I can't watch this.
Every time these teams take to the Rift, I feel a part of my soul die. Eddie backsteps the Leona ult, but it just doesn't matter as he will be taken down. The masterpiece is taken away as Jhin falls. And, I mean, 𝘀𝗋 are getting further ahead, but at this point, I don't think either team are playing to win.
No one's winning right now.
Yeah.
It's a situation where I think 𝘀𝗀𝗋 got what they wanted in draft. I like that they have only winning lanes. 𝘀𝗀𝗋 is just bullying 𝘁𝗀𝗋 now.
And 𝘁𝗀𝗋's dead.
Yep. Hello for you.
Yoshino's sitting at home somewhere, just licking his lips at that one. Ugh.
Too easy. Like I said, having strong lanes everywhere for 𝘀𝗀𝗋 means that, like, if you get outscaled or if you can't make things happen in the early game, it gets slowed down and it's so much harder to play. But, like, against teams like Team Secret, Team Flash, and teams like this that don't know how to beat them, it just looks easy. Like, they're up 3,000 gold, and I feel like 𝘀𝗀𝗋 has done practically nothing to earn that 5,000 or 3,000 gold advantage so far.
Yeah,
they've also got 2 dragons. Like,
they're bullying the mid lane. They're abusing the flash timer from 𝘁𝗀𝗋. That's, good. But it hasn't been particularly fancy, but what has been fancy is this play around here as 𝘀𝗀 will get the first kill. It's a good bullet time, dealing so much damage onto all of the members of Team Secret, but a good knock up there from 𝘂1 will buy them just a moment as he opens up with the Jhin ult, but he's got to be careful of 𝘂𝗎, who's picked up one onto the Rakan. Jhin is all alone. If anything lands, he dies. Once the minion wave crashes, he dies. So death comes for him, and Jhin is gone.
So now 𝘀𝘀cie is starting to press down on the gas pedal a little bit. They understand they're in the lead. They're now going to be able to crack towers, and this is going to snowball into an effect that with all these winning lanes, with, you know, at least the Misfortune ultimate, it leads to an extremely powerful mid-game here for the side of 𝘀𝘀cie across from TCS. And TCS, finding a way back in is going to be difficult. They still do have at least a late-game team fight they can maybe bank on, but it's going to be a while till they get the damage to get there. So for the moment, I'm just going to stop, like, talking poorly about these teams, because I feel like we've gone very hard into the negative. I actually want to talk about a player that I disrespected earlier in the split. 𝘀𝗀 has turned around quite a bit. He is the only Renekton player in this entire league that I am confident to say that I'm okay with him playing Renekton. Most of the time when we see this champion, it does basically nothing. But look at this. He's teleporting on the proper timer. Nice little stun. He does it. He continues the auto-attacking train. He tanks the front line for as much as possible. His Qs come out in the nice time to be able to actually, like, heal himself up. He's the one that's ready and available on this dive for Eddie. Yes, 𝘀𝗀 misses the Q, but he's right there ready to tank the tower for the remainder of his team. His play has stepped up significantly since the first week, and it's only been 1 week since. So I want to give props. I said that 𝘀𝗰 should probably get a job. The last 2 series have proved me wrong. I like what 𝘀𝗀 has been able to accomplish in just a short amount of time with some turnover. Maybe it is just the Renekton pick that's been crushing him a little bit too hard. Maybe once that's banned out, he's going to go back to his ways of not having particularly good performances. But until that happens, I'm willing to say that 𝘀𝗀 has at least turned a mild corner of not being just you know, somebody that they need to look to replace with 𝘀𝗰.
Yeah, I agree. He has bounced back. He had that iffy play on in the top side, so there's still a long way to go. But now 𝘀𝘀cie have found an amazing collapse. DNK goes low, he goes down, but he actually deals a fair bit of damage on the way out, but it's not going to be enough. Team Secret are being melted off the map. 𝘁𝗀 will be the next one to find it. 𝘀𝘀cie can't hit a Q to save his life this game, but he is just going to chase 𝘂1 out. He really doesn't. Oh my god.
Come on.
Oh, come on, 𝘀𝘀cie. He's really doing his Lee Sin cosplay. He's got the blindfold on, but it doesn't matter because he will get the kill, and Team Secret are getting wrecked.
Very, very good stuff. Again, exploiting this early game lead, trying to push this advantage, and they're going to continue doing it. They lost the Rift Herald, yes, but the fight afterwards was the play the entire time. They're going to be able to pick up mid tower. They pick up top tower now as well for 𝘀𝗀. They've got this insanely powerful team fighting type composition now where you have Renekton, who's capable of doing a lot. You've got a 𝘁𝗀 stacking for Glory. You've got 2 completed items for your Misfortune. It is near impossible for TS. I mean, that's a whole item for just 𝘂𝗎 in the bottom lane alone over top of Eddie, let alone anything else that would come about. I mean, you don't even have a completed item for 𝘁𝗀𝗀 yet. This is a tough spot to be in if you're on the tide of Team Secret. Now, you're also going to be down a 3rd dragon. You've got nothing going for you if you're Team Secret, unfortunately, over the course of this game.
You really don't, as 𝘁𝗀 is in a lot of trouble up against Glory. Will go into the Mega Gnar, but one more doesn't get the next cycle of spells, so the Gnar does survive for now. But look at Glory. He's unstoppable in the side lane. Another dragon was claimed for Skye, and surely this is unwinnable for Secret now.
Watch this. I really wanted to see 𝘀𝗀 ward hop and kick the Gnar through all 5 members because they were standing in a legitimate straight line. And it frustrated me when he didn't. And he went for the assassination, was able to find one onto the Jhin immediately, and it helped out the remainder of the play. Yes, it cost 1 life, but it ended up scattering everybody else to the weak, and it ended up with 4 kills one way or another. It was a nice collapse coming out. Again, the ideas are here for 𝘀𝘀cie. They've started to figure out that having composition where they have strong lanes to work with in the early game means that VCS teams have to beat them, a prospect that is not easy for a lot of VCS teams. And, you know, being able to utilize this, they've actually found a great way of expanding this lead into some of the later portions of the game. You've actually seen that a number of times, not only with plays like the Rift Herald, but a number of other plays across the map have gone very smoothly for the side of 𝘀𝘀cie. Their macro, when they're ahead in the earlier phases with these powerful champions, is looking good. That's really easy to say, right? Like, if you've got a 5,000 gold lead, macro is a lot easier for any team, but that's what's necessary for 𝘀𝘀cie. We've seen too many times where that has not been the case.
Yeah, I mean, look, it is very easy to macro from that far ahead, but in the VCS, where macro is often weak, and particularly with the lower tier VCS teams, it's good to see. It's what we want to track out of these teams. We need to track that improvement. And also, I want to give pretty big props over to 𝘀cie as he dodged away from 𝘂1 there. He is one of the more traditional mid laners in the VCS. A lot of the VCS mid laners do play bruisers. Then you have 𝘀gie playing whenever he wants, that kind of thing. He actually plays mid lane champions, and this game he's playing really well.
Like I said, 𝘀cie is like the traditional mid laner, and I really appreciate that finally he's starting to look pretty good. Again, perhaps it's the matchups that we've had just this week to be able to build up to, but I mean, I'm really happy with the performance that he's been able to have so far. And again, if this is a continuing trend where you have, what is it, 12, so what is that, like 80% kill participation, 𝘀cie alongside a very high-performing 𝘀cie, and solid side lanes who are winning because they're drafted properly, I mean, this is a strategy someone's going to have to come up with a response for you. It's a winning formula. That's the best we could say for BTS in the last like 5 years of their play.
And there we go. 𝘁𝗍𝗋's going to try and get something back. It's a good start with a huge 𝗀 into the big supreme display of talent. And this is Team Secret potentially trying to turn things around. 2 for 1 at the moment. 𝘁𝗀's in trouble, but he flashes away from the Jhin bullet, which should let him live at least for a little while as they bear down on him. Can they land the CC? They can. And that Leona will be wiped off the map. Team Secret are not going to go down without a fight.
Yeah, very good combination of ultimates. This is the mean team fight we were talking about from the side of TS. This had nothing to do with the gold that they had in their back pocket because they don't have that much damage. They're still down 9,000 gold. Poor Eddie.
Oh, hello. Sorry. I looked away for a moment just to wipe my glasses, and immediately Eddie has been caught out. 𝘀cie, he's in trouble as well. I should have known I don't get 10 seconds in the VCS as 𝘀cie goes huge. And that is a triple kill. 𝘀cie picking up one as well. They'll get the tower, and Sky beat them back into the ground.
To give them props, right? Like, TS found a solid fight with a Gnar ultimate into a supreme display of talent. I was so excited. I was like, okay, finally TS gets some ground to work with, but they're walking forward with nothing but squishy champions into a powerful LeBlanc and a powerful Lee Sin. 𝘀cie was nearly 1v3ing on his own, never dropped before half of his health bar. The entire situation right there. And this leads to Baron. This wasn't a fight that was going to win you the entire game if you're TS, because you just don't have the damage to take Baron, but it was at least something to hang your hat on. Is like, okay, we've got this. Maybe we could build it into more if we continue to get fights like this. But then to be just have the corridor slammed in your face like that by 𝘀cie and by 𝘀cie was insane. Again, talking about 𝘁𝗍𝗋 finds a fantastic ultimate into the supreme display of talent, even into 𝘂1, who was able to kind of pair it with the Gnar, or the Rakan, my apologies. It was a really good play. I actually think Ryuk would have been better off running into the cluster of 3 members and just doing damage in between a bunch of people rather than trying to come back and stun somebody to help out the remainder of the fight. So I think that was at least one knock on Ryuk during the course of that fight. And it was gorgeous. But again, 𝘀cie is so strong. Like, why are you standing up in this lane? You're not going to Baron. Just back off, do something else elsewhere. He catches out Eddie after 𝘂1 just walks past him. And look at him. He's just auto-attacking away at anybody he wants. There's 3 of them here, and 𝘀cie, I feel like, could have probably won this.
He doesn't take damage.
No, he doesn't.
He's not taking any damage.
He's still
and
a
then
kick,
look at
too.
𝘀cie.
Yeah,
just
𝘀cie.
absurd stuff here.
It is. Yeah, this is the Magi's 𝘀cie. Like, that's all that's going to be necessary for him to just go crazy. And so now, 𝘀cie with 3 additional kills with the Baron buff, with the gold in the back pocket, it's kind of insane just how much damage was able to be done right there.
And production tells us we have hit 10,000 followers on Twitch, which we want to take just a moment to thank everyone for. We appreciate you guys. There's been a big growth over these 2 years. I remember when we were casting to 10 people and I sounded like I was in a bathroom. So let's hope for many more good years of the VCS. If you want to support us, feel free. But let's get back into the game, Rebel. No one cares about us. It's all about these 10 players on Summoner's Rift, as 𝘀cie is looking to burst the secret. As they picked up both of these base turrets, they'll be onto the inhibitors. And Team Secret, I mean, that mid lane play was about the best you're going to get. Now you got to do it about 10 more times.
That you do. And now you also have the problem of if you don't snag 𝘀cie in that whole situation, then all of a sudden you have way too many squishy characters to actually not worry about what's going to happen with 𝘀cie. Right there, he used the double distortion and was trying to find a pick on the 𝘂1. I was hoping the chain would land because I kind of wanted to see how much damage he could do to this poor Rakan without any magic resist. Oh, I guess he got the locket of the Merc Treads. That would have been more than enough to stop at least probably a full combo from coming out, but Oh,
Oh,
maybe you'll prove me wrong.
𝘂1, he's in trouble. The wings are going to get clipped. Never mind. He flies on away. Will he be able to get back to his nest? He certainly will, but 𝘀𝗰𝗋 will not be back to her empire. My word! 𝘀𝗀rie goes forward and detonates 2 members of Team Secret. The third inhib will be taken. Burst the Sky. My word. Ticking every box as they move towards the Nexus. The Nexus towers fall, and BTS show that we need to give them respect. They are a 6th place team, but they are playing much better.
They are. They're beating down. Again, I talked about it just in the last series in comparison to the other 2 teams. They could walk out of this week legitimately sitting at 3-3 in the middle of the schedule, maybe even taking 4th place, depending on how GAN does the remainder of the week. Watching the step up of everybody on the side of Burst the Sky, but especially the mid laner, it's been rather glorious, if I must say so myself.
Yeah, I 100% agree. And I want to thank everyone again for getting us to 10,000 followers. It does mean a huge amount to everyone on the VCS English team, even the people you don't see on the camera. We have a big team working behind us, so the support means a huge, huge amount, and I do mean that sincerely. But we will collect ourselves with a 5-minute break before we go back to our analyst desk before Game 2. Welcome back, everybody. It was a little bit of a slaughter as Sky came in with a plan and enacted it well up against Team Secret. We have brought 𝘀𝗀cie back. I need to get your opinion on this first game.
Yeah, I mean, it was just like Sky had a plan and Team Secret kind of didn't, so it was a bit of a plan difference. I mean, I really didn't like what they did with 𝘀𝗀ie this game. I mean, they gave him the counter pick. I mean, he was a R5 last pick they had. They picked 9 to Nectin. He just lost lane. And 𝘀𝗀ie, on the other hand, he had this one play where he was like outplaying the 1v2 with the gang, and then he just chose to go in anyway and just die because he couldn't find his Q button to 𝘀𝗀𝗋 there. And it was a little bit of a wacky game, I would say, but considering it was 6 versus 7, Sky wasn't that bad at all. I mean, they kind of crushed Team Secret there.
Yeah, for sure. Like, look, they didn't play like a top 2 team, but we don't expect that out of them. I think they played as a firmly mid-tier team. And, you know, that's an improvement for them, honestly. Rebel, what was your take on Team Secret in Game 1, and how do they bounce back?
I mean, it was all mid-game. Their lanes were not set up for success in the slightest, and DNK had very little support. He was really trying to make things happen on the 𝘀𝗰𝗋 in the very early stages of the game, which, again, coming into this, I expect more farming type champions for the likes of DNK. The one that comes to mind is actually Kindred when it comes to like what his game style is, because it's something you can attack with, but it's also something that like if you just sit and farm, things will be okay. You can carry in the later stages, and that's kind of what I wanted. But instead, you go for the 𝘀𝗰𝗋, you go for a very quick strike, trying to beat out Drakthar in the very early stages of the game, and you just kind of get wrecked on your way out, and your lanes aren't in anywhere near a position to be able to assist you because they're not good and they're in losing states, and because of that they just got snowballed against. It was a really tough situation to find yourself in if you're Team Flash or Team Secret. My apologies.
Well, sorry, go ahead. Didn't mean to cut anyone off. Oh no, sorry, I thought I heard someone starting a point. My mistake. 𝘀𝗀cie, we'll go over to you. The draft was certainly not the draft we like to see in terms of what was picked up. Maybe it is fine for these teams, though. BTS, do they change anything, or are they happy with the salty run back?
I mean, for those, the one back wouldn't be salty at all. I mean, it's just absolutely one, and they don't need to change anything. For Team Secret, of course, it would be. And I gotta say, I can make a little bit of a case for the bot lane of Team Secret. They played it fine. They got counterpicked on both matchups, in my opinion, with the Jhin or Khan into MF Leona. It's not that good looking for them, and they played the lane fine. The lane was basically even until DNK was overforcing on the dive at the bot lane there. And also 𝘀𝗀𝗋, we expected pretty much nothing from him, and he had a good start to the game. He went to 0, had a farm lead against 𝘀𝗀ie. He was good at the roam. Unfortunately, though, once he died once, he absolutely crumbled, and 𝘀𝗀ie just went away with the game.
Yeah, I think 𝘀𝗀ie is someone that we should talk about. Had an outstanding performance on the LeBlanc. What's been your impression of him so far this split, just in general, Rebel?
Like I said, this split seems to be. It's tough to say that it's a turning point because we're only 1 week in, even though we've already seen what is 4 series. Now it's going to be a 5th series coming out here for the likes of BTS and the rest of the teams inside of this split. All I will say is 𝘀🐠 always has these like really solid games and then games that aren't looking nearly as good. This split, the play seems to have leveled out to a consistent level. It seems like no matter the game that we're in, 𝘀🐠 appears to have hit like a minimum threshold that is above what he's had previously. Because in previous years, I mean, you would have performances that were like akin to like negative, KDA, bad CSing, things like that, like the proverbial froggy of what happened when he was in 2020. But that doesn't seem to be the case for 𝘀🐠 this year. 𝘀🐠 seems to have risen his minimum level up to a very substantial, like kind of improvement, and still has those pop-up performances like you saw in this game, which is just raising his level little by little. And again, that kind of improvement, that kind of steady improvement is what we want from every player, but we'll take it in 𝘀🐠 to start with because we've been waiting for this for a very long time.
We certainly have, and now let's talk about Team Secret on a specific level. Obviously, part of the answer to this is play better, but seriously, how do they get back into this one? Where do we need to see them attack as we head into draft?
What I want to see is a better matchup for the top lane. I mean, 𝘀🐊 just now, I keep saying the same thing, I guess, with him picking the 9 with Renekton. I mean, Renekton is fine for Ryuk. I don't think you can ever ban something like this. This would be absolutely ridiculous. What I just want to see is maybe Team Secret go for a style where like top lane doesn't matter for both sides, and they just put a little bit more focus on the bot lane, because the bot lane is doing decently well for them. Play towards your strength, ignore the top lane, and just hope that maybe 𝘀🐠 carries you through the game.
Say goodbye to 𝘀𝗀. R.I.P. 𝘀𝗀. He's already out of the game.
I don't think he was the problem in game. He was not the problem. I think he was
not there. I told you, though, as soon as he's going to have a rough performance, they're just going to pull him out. That's got to be terrible for the mental.
Even that rough.
Look, I've seen what 𝘀𝗀 has done to other people's mental, so this is just swings and roundabouts. As they do get that Twisted Fate, so they're off to a good start. And they could have taken 𝘀𝐿𝐴, but decide not to.
Is it 𝘂𝐿𝐴 as a response then? That's been kind of the take? Or 𝘁𝐿𝐴, one of the two?
Oh, please don't.
I think it's gotta be. Please don't let them have 𝘁𝐿𝐴 at least. Okay, yeah, 𝘂𝐿𝐴 makes a lot more sense.
Certainly does, and then I think Skye could go for the Lucian Leona to maybe counterpick the 𝘁𝐴, so you can have a little bit more early game agency, go for the roams. This time not piss off 𝘀𝗀, but piss off 𝘁𝗀 in the mid lane who's on a Twisted Fate. But gotta say, on their end, they have Twisted Fate picked up, and Chamberlain's oftenly banned, and maybe 𝘁𝗀, if he plays better than 𝘀𝗀 in game 1, can have decent impact there, and there's the Leona coming in. So I guess that Skye has somewhat similar thought than I have. Maybe they just want to crush the bot lane on their own. And I gotta say, bot lane was the one thing going right for Team Secret this time. They maybe are a little bit counterpicked, but gotta say, if they scale finally and are not behind around level 6, but they can finally start doing things, it could be rough for Team Skye.
I mean, now you've effectively got 2 aggressive bottom lanes, because like if you're playing 𝘁𝐴 on a back foot, then you're playing 𝘁𝐴 incorrectly the majority of the time. You've got Lucian, who is a far more powerful, I would say, than what is the 𝘂𝐿𝐴 in the very early stages of the game. So I agree with you in the fact that this should be a powerful bottom side for the side of versus the Skye against the 𝘂𝐿 𝘁𝐴. Now, scaling certainly is not the case, because that combination will be disgusting as the series continues or as the games continue. And now it's a matter of, okay, you've got Twisted Fate on your half, right? And you've got this 𝘂𝐿𝐴 𝘁𝐴. So you need something comfortable for your top lane so that 𝘁𝐴 does not just like die. And then you need something for your jungle position that's going to help out into the bottom side of the map most certainly as well, just to make sure that this Lucian and Leona are not going to have too much of a struggle.
For sure.
One thing I want to point out, just to cut you off really quick, is something we always want to remind you, because this is something that's a relic from VCS English past, is our 𝘁𝐴, formerly Police, is one of the best Lucians in the league. By far. He's ridiculously good on Lucian. I just want to put that out there. That's a 𝘁𝗏. That's not getting locked in.
That jungle is a thing.
That just got locked in.
Welcome.
All right.
It's a thing that the jungle buffs for
jungle. Yeah.
Yeah, the jungle with 𝘀𝗀𝗀𝗀 with the Ghost Blade Rush, maybe even it is the thing you
Yeah.
can play it. And maybe that's also one way to punish the Rise, punish the Lucian, because you just mentioned it. I mean, a very good Lucian player, very good player in general this split, I would say. I mean, for a bottom tier team, he has been doing numbers, I would say. And now you have the Jax counter pick into the Camille. And yeah, first game didn't work out quite nicely for Nagia. Now he's getting counter picked. Has, at least in the Camille Jax matchup, the first few levels he usually tends to win there. But I'm just really curious to see what the Zed can do, because Zed on a jungler that tends to overforce a little bit is just about a worrying trend for me.
𝘀𝗀𝗀 is in ELO hell so far right now. He's got to be tilted out of his mind if he's picking Zed jungle. It's a pick I've gotten to see, I think, 3 times total inside of like amateur, and then I also watched the EU Masters. And the thing I know about this pick is that it constantly has to be ganking. This is not a jungler that you pick with anybody, right? This isn't even like like an LPL style jungler type jungle where it's like attacking constantly. This is lunatic levels of aggression that need to come out for this champion to work. Combine that with 𝘂𝘂, it's going to be great, but 𝘀𝗀𝗀, I mean, he's got to do so much to make sure that this Zed does not just get run past in the early stages and that this composition is not just useless.
For sure. I mean, I saw Pride Soccer picking it for Mouse. They won Prime League with it. Now he plays in the major region in NA again. So the pick in itself is not troll, gotta say though. I'm overall not convinced by this team's secret draft, and I think BTS will close it out in the mid game here. Probably will be a game sub 30 minutes where they just win. If not, they still have the Jax as a late game insurance policy, so it's not all over there with that bot lane matchup they have. But I'm having more confidence in versus 𝘀𝗀𝗀 yet again.
Well, I'll take that as your BTS prediction. Rebel, which way do you think it's going to go as we do head over to the caster desk? We will be back with 𝘀𝗀𝗀𝗀 soon enough, don't worry.
I am excited to see 𝘀𝗀𝗀𝗀 flex on some kids with this Zed pick. I'm hoping he gets at least one little stylish play to come in here. Unfortunately, you have picked 𝘀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝐾amille into a Ryuk Jax, and I have zero faith that 𝘀𝗀𝗀𝗀 is going to find success in that lane, as not only is it difficult to set up a gank for the likes of your Zed in that particular case, but the one-on-one is not going to go in your favor very easily, if it ever does, even in a counter matchup for the likes of 𝘀𝗀𝗀𝗀. So this is not providing faith to me.
Rebel, I do have a little bit of intel, because between games I was very hungry, jumped down to 7-Eleven, actually saw 𝘀𝗀𝗀𝗀 there. He was buying some Red Bull and some diapers. I asked him what were the diapers for, and he told me it's just so I don't shit on these kids. So I think he's confident in coming into the next game on this Zed jungle. Look, as 𝘀𝗀𝗀𝗀 said, it has to be ganking constantly. It is a good pick. It's not troll. Even though it may seem that way if you're someone that's watched competitive League of Legends for some time. But it is strong. But I agree, I'm not super confident with the rest of the comp, particularly this Ignite top for Nagia. That seems rough.
Yeah, I think 𝘀𝗀𝗀𝗀's second stop was probably where I met him, which is the liquor store, where he was picking up Jaeger so that he could make Jaeger bombs so that he could drink his way through what is going to be one of the probably very rough laning phases pretty much across the board. Not only Nagia, who's already a notoriously rough laner into a counter matchup, but also the likes of the Rise, which is going to have a ton of control over top of the Twisted Fate. I mean, 𝘀𝗀𝗀𝗀 is literally flipping at level 1.
I mean, yeah, why not? Just play the Zed like an absolute Chad. He loses the he's dead. He's dead. He's just standing still. He accepts his fate. He knows.
Oh my goodness, he's so tilted. Oh, get him,
he's
team.
Done. He's done. He's mentally gone.
Oh my goodness. That's the biggest mental boom I've ever seen in my entire life. He flips level 1 on the buff and gives up on the auto attacking battle. You gotta be kidding me.
Oh no! It's gonna happen again! Oh my gosh. He gets spotted. Oh, 𝘀𝗀𝗀𝗀 doesn't get the knockup. He misses. He does have a Leona coming over, but they're scared of the Nami Xayah. I mean, this is solo queue. This is solo queue, and 𝘀𝗀𝗀𝗀 is the mentally deranged kid I always get on my team that's already spamming FF.
Yeah, this is what my solo queue games look like. See, I'm typically the Nami in this case, and what'll happen is I want to go support 𝘀𝗀𝗀𝗀. My team has 2 people in the base with items bought waiting to run out to base, and our jungler loses their first 4 camps because we can't wrestle them away. 𝘀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀 is already taking a Raptor camp and a red. He could just full clear if he wanted to. This is rough because like the Zed pick is not bad, but it does not do well when you coin flip your first buff. No,
I don't think any jungle does.
No jungle is designed for that in the slightest. And it begs the question, why did you 50-50 the first buff against Drakthar?
I don't know.
I'm
I
so
don't
bored.
understand why you did that, DNK. He does manage to pick up a crab at
He's gonna
least.
snag
He is yet to get a buff, by the way. And hello, Drakthar comes in, and he is the Tom to Team Secret's Jerry.
Interesting, because what's going to happen here is Drakthar is going to see this, and he's either going to turn to his own jungle and find DNK, which is what's going to happen, or he would turn into the other jungle and go for things. If he sees that DNK doesn't have anything more...
Yeah, he sees no buffs, but the... Wait, where did the Gear TP from? Please tell me he was in base. He wasn't in base. He hasn't bought... He TP'd from lane. He TP'd from lane, I think, as there is a big trade in the bottom lane. Rebel... I'm about to get fined by our producer, but this is a shit show.
This is the... I can now understand the reason why he is going flipping at level 1. If my top laner were teleporting from, like, the 10 units away, with a number of Teemos that is a reasonable number of Teemos, there's no reason that should be the case. I'm actually really shocked. They could have sent this game into full tilt. After this play, you see Drakthar stepped into the river. He had a count on DNK's jungle camps, right? If you teleport in with ggl4y and with Ryuk into the opposing jungle after Nagia pulled that stunt after a back, they just take all of his topside camps too, and that this game's over. There's no playing this out if you're DNK. If that's not a mental boom in an FF15, I do not know what is. But they decided, I guess, to let him play the game a little bit longer. Drakthar, a merciful god, if not anything.
I mean, I didn't realize we were allowed to broadcast this kind of mental torture on Twitch, because this is just so brutal. Actually, Nagia didn't teleport, because he just teleported then,
Was this a solo
I'm not sure
kill?
what we were seeing.
The back end
I'm
it is.
honestly not sure.
This is a solo kill. Yep.
Oh, it's just a solo bolo. There you go.
Yeah, ggl4y could have taken, I think, a 6-pixel step up to the top, and he wouldn't have lost that health bar, and it would have allowed him to auto-attack one additional minion, and right now they would have been up 4 more kills. But he obviously doesn't have the brain power of the #1 Rise on the Chinese super server like me, so it's not his fault. He's pretty good at the champion. He's already up 2 kills now inside of the laning phase. Drakthar is controlling everything. The game is looking good for the side of 𝘀cie.
I mean, they're 1,100 gold ahead at 6 minutes, Rebel. It's hard to really say anything, but you know what is crazy? DNK's up in farm.
How is DNK up in farm? Drakthar!
Leo charges forward, goes in to a 1v3, but is tanky on that Leona. I mean, he is up in farm for now. DNK's about... Drakthar's about to have all of his camps respawn, though, so he will spring back ahead as Ryuk bears down on Nagia, wants to give him the smack, but has to flash away as the TF arrives. But look who it is. It's 𝘀cie and Drakthar. They warped the realm to get here. Nagia turning around onto the Rise, wants to shut down the Blue Man group, and they end up just running on away, scared of DNK. But the tower is not necessarily safety, as he doesn't get the shadow over the wall, but does get the double shuriken. Jerry, you don't have a team behind you anymore. And
Very
now...
nice.
What is going on here? They're so deep, Rebel, as 𝘀𝘀cie is going to get shot on towards the fish. Elio wants to cut the bird down, manages it, and will go down on the other side with it. That's not a good trade, as that's an ADC getting a kill for a support getting one. And it's back to the red buff, Rebel. It never stops.
Go, Ryuk, go. Oh, they flipped for it.
They did flip for it. DNK won the flip. It's now 1-1 as they do get the shutdown onto this job, and Team Secret are firing back as Ryuk is charging forward, needs to get the counter-strike. 𝘀4y flashes, but doesn't find anything from it, and Team Secret are able to evacuate.
Target selection was kind of poor there, I think, from 𝘀4y, because if he goes over and then he goes for an EW immediately onto Jerry, then I think they're actually able to find a response kill to what happened on the bottom side of the map. But unfortunately, that's not the case. Coin flipping also for the buff yet again. Somehow it has been DNK who's been able to wrestle his way back in. This is kind of the strength of the Zed pick, which is just how fast it clears the jungle after the buffs to the passive, being able to do a bunch of execute damage. Okay, I was curious why he had no items, but it's because he really didn't have a back opportunity before this, and his jungle item ran out. I always love that little interaction. I see it very rarely. I think I saw somebody go up to like 68 CS without backing, and they just had no items because they started pots instead of a refillable. So they had literally 0 items in their inventory, which was one of the funniest sights I'd ever seen up until like level 7 or something like that. But yeah, it's good. Clear speed's there for DNK. He's taking advantage of it to its fullest. And now this game doesn't look as disastrous as it was in the very first few minutes of the game. Again, still want to point out, double TP from Ryuk would have completely closed this game. It would have thrown DNK into full tilt, probably would have caused him to retire if it weren't for that fact. But, Burst the Sky, merciful, they're letting this one play out a little bit further.
Yeah. I don't know how DNK has caught up in farm. I'm not sure what 𝘀𝘀 was doing. He accessed the froggy dimension. I thought only Levi was allowed to do that. Wow,
I think all junglers are starting to figure it out, yeah.
He's really growing as a player. As the bot lane from Sky have moved up towards the mid lane, and it's a minute late, Rebel, but it's the time for the Herald flip.
Where does that lead you? All places come back to me, the Herald flip. There's only level 5 𝘀𝗻𝗀, and it's a level 6 𝘂1. I always like tracking that because the support level up is so important. He said a flat.
Moving straight in onto 𝘀𝘀. Bang! Pop goes the Jarv, and the Z ultimate was used on 𝘀𝗻𝗀, which is a mistake in my opinion, but it doesn't matter as they secure the Herald, and Sky have no way in. Team Secret are well and truly back in this game.
Again, looking as best as possible. Yeah, it's horrible. 𝘀𝗻𝗀 needs level 6. That's one of the biggest things. They split levels entirely on the side of TS, and that means that both of them were level 6, and that would have opened up so many opportunities. Having the Solar Flare right there would have led to so much. You could have dropped it on multiple people, and the Hex Flasher behind the wall would have been more than enough for 𝘀𝗻𝗀 to find a really fantastic flank, but their front line collapsed because 𝘀𝘀 went down, not to mention the Z ultimate dragged quite a bit. Actually, it doesn't look like Z ultimate was used during the course of that fight, so not actually too big of a worry there. There was a number of ultimates conserved from the side of TS because of how fast that 𝘀𝘀 went down on that front line really, really quickly. As, like you said, game has been wrestled back into control to some extent. I do still have the fear of, okay, you have Nagia with 1 kill, but it's still into a Jax that is well fed.
𝘀𝘀's in trouble, as there it is. The death mark is used, and it lives up to its name, as he has absolutely no hope there.
You want to know what the mechanic is to get out of a situation like that if you're a Rise player? Listen up. Ready for this? It's cleanse. You take cleanse instead of not having that.
It's a good flash. You take 2 flashes.
2 flashes would be a good idea. He could have teleported if he had started his teleport 7 seconds earlier. That would have been another option potentially to get out of that situation. There's plenty of options here, 𝘀𝘀. You just got to learn from the techniques of the best, okay? That's the maniac type ganking we're looking for, though, right? Like, we're looking for gold cards as best as the possibility. Right there, 𝘀𝗻𝗀, if he has ultimate, he stacks onto like 4 people and they win that. But because 𝘀𝘀 went down, it was near impossible to actually ever end up taking this fight. If he even lives that situation, you can get a Cataclysm down onto multiple members. Like, they were grouped up for so long. It's unfortunate that Sky didn't really have those team fighting ultimates readily available to take advantage. But here they are onto the bottom side. The Drake should be in their control as they grab the second one of the game. Even in gold, they still have the Rise, who's up 30 CS in the mid lane. You've got this top lane in a good position. Your Lucian is also insanely ahead on the bottom side as well.
Yeah, I mean, I'd said it in draft. 𝘀𝗀𝗀 is one of the best Lucians in this league. Police, what he was formerly named, was never allowed to play this champion. It was perma-banned against him, along with 𝘀𝗰𝗶𝗹𝘀. Not that he's playing 𝘀𝗰𝗶, she's not exactly strong enough at the moment, but Lucian certainly is, as Ryuk gets pushed in. He's suffering in this matchup. Is about 10 CS down. We'll catch up a little bit as the wave hits the dragon. The dragon? What? The tower, though.
The dragon. Oh, actually, they're roaming up the top side. 𝘀𝘀 is here for a little bit of defense, but the combination of Jerry and DNK, the gold card with a Z, is enough to really put a bunch of pressure onto anyone. So 𝘀𝘀 being here is really helpful. They're making sure that the Jax isn't going to be on his lonesome. They're going to put pressure on the top side. Rift Herald's there, too.
Yeah, this could be a tower taken, as they have a lot of auto attack damage. Rise is going back towards his own lane as they just managed to force it back. The Rift Herald not committed.
Yeah, actually 5 members from the side of Team Secret low-key kind of poking their nose up and into the mid lane and into the top side of the map. But yeah, they're not going to commit to the top tower actually being put pressure onto. That would have been an interesting breaking point for Team Secret. If you get this Camille ahead, at least to the point where you're up a fair number of items over top of the Jax as the Camille, that no longer is a lane you really have to worry about in its own right. And that means that all of a sudden the Zed can start fixing some of the other problems existing. Like, you already had the good gank into Glory. That's something he has to respect. If minimum, you have to burn the flash on the next gank whenever you come in like a maniac next time is DNK, or even into the bottom lane where you could try to take advantage of the Lucian who's up 30.
Yes. He's in trouble, but he's turning it around with a culling. It's a good Featherstorm. 𝘀𝑎𝑏𝗶𝗹𝗀 bearing down on the Xayah. Can he find that last bit of damage? 𝘀𝗀𝗺 certainly can as he dunks him down. But with the teleports arriving, this is turning around as Ryuk will enter the fray. It's still this even fight at the moment, but 4v2 Rebel spells disaster.
Extremely well played from the side of 𝘀𝗀𝗺cie, being able to bring multiple members down. And now DNK with the Rift Herald, I believe, popped out in the top lane, should be enough to bring down first tower before that gets responded to by the likes of 𝘀𝗀𝗺cie. Yeah, he's going to be able to take this relatively quickly. Although with that going down, the wave is large, but there's another one coming in, which means they probably don't end up getting more than that, especially with 𝘀𝗀𝗺 going to respawn. I really wish they would be able to snag this tower, but I feel like without the wave here, they're not going to be able to do so, especially now that plates are down 14 minutes. It's not as imperative that they need to get that in response to the goal. DNK pulls a bunch off the top tower by getting first tower and also all 5 of the plates. That's shared between a bunch of BTS, but you can see the fighting is definitely there. They're willing to throw punches back and forth. What happened here, Eddie?
It just started with landing a random E and not quite reading where 𝘀𝑎𝑏𝗶𝗹𝗀 was. So it's just a mistake, really, from Eddie.
Watching the TPs too, I actually really love that Cataclysm from 𝘀𝗀𝗺. Well, yes, it didn't actually catch VCS. It cut off the escape angle. I kind of wish he would have left it up a little bit longer. I know he's basically worthless when he does, but it would have prevented a lot of the escape potential for the 2 teleportees, and it might have actually cut off enough of the escape angle from 𝘁𝗀 without the hook shot to be able to get out of that situation before the reinforcement came in from Glory and from 𝘀𝗀𝗍 at the very end of that fight.
But we still have a strong Camille up on the top side for 𝘁𝗀𝗍. Has that Divine Sunderer compared to just the Blade of the Ruin King for Jax. Of course, Blade of the Ruin King is pretty big for Jax, but it's not a mythic.
No.
In the mid lane, Everfrost. Actually, TF gets to it first, as Ryze has yet to complete his first item. Might just be on a back timing and be carrying gold. I'm not too sure. Or might just be the Twisted Fate passive working overtime.
That, and I think Glory has also gone for a bit more junk drawer because he's got like the Lucidity boots, he's got Corrupting Pot fully, he's got the Tear, he's got the 1 stack on the Darksteel, and that's like kind of scattered about for Jerry, but he doesn't have completed boots. He had the stopwatch, which came from his own inventory, like things like that that are kind of scraps.
It's happening again. Flash into gold card. Are they going to go under the tower? They certainly are. Glory, there's nothing he can really do.
Cleanse.
QSS. Oh, hello, down on the bottom side. 𝘀𝗀𝗺 will pick up a kill straight onto the Nami, sending her back to the ocean, and the bird gets cold. Overpopulation handled.
Yeah, it is DNK who is attempting to try to, salvage a little bit of the mid lane, which has worked out to some extent, just because Glory hasn't been able to respond to some of the gold. I mean, he's got the CS to match Jerry, but that's about it. So DNK constantly coming where the CC is going to be, which that point and click gold card. But 𝘀𝗀𝗺 is attacking into the multiple person lane, making sure that that gold is going to get equalized on the bottom side. They pulled both the inner and outer bot lane towers here for the exchange in 𝘀𝗀𝗺 and doubled the number of kills because it was 2 members that went down instead of just the 1 that TS got in the mid lane. It is more valuable ganking that's coming out from the side of 𝘀𝗀𝗺 right now. That's more effective. And now, especially now that, you have a really long wave on bot, now you can keep Glory in the top side as much as you want. Try to let him just continue to crash waves as much as possible. Keep him away from DNK to the best of their ability, and or keep Twisted Fate on the side of the map. This is what happens when they have the gold card interaction between the two. Good stuff from 𝘀𝗀𝗺. He found the kill on defeat 1, but then I love this from 𝘀𝗀𝗍, who's able to use this ultimate, slide in on Eddie, find that kill right after the tower got brought down.
And we did see in that replay, Team Secret did pick up that Cloud Drake, so they do stop the snowball from BTS. But of course, Sky was looking at just a Cloud Soul. I don't think that was a huge priority for them.
No.
Not super imperative that they retain control of that objective.
They also, in exchange for that, they lose top tower to the Rise, who pulls a fair amount more gold into the back pockets, and also the Rift Herald, which could be used to then break either mid inner tower, mid kind of outer tower, which is going to be the entire ring of outer tower is gone, or they use it to break top inner, which seems like where they're hovering around right this second in the Rise versus the Twisted Fate type matchup, which is interesting. Ryuk is backed off on bottom side, understanding that they are trying to make this top side play work to the best of their abilities. Drakthar has been spotted like twice now. You can see the eyes have been over him for a fair amount of time. They're just trying to force, and finally he's going to leave. Maybe there's a push up in mid lane that could actually work out, especially with DNK and 𝘀cie both showing on bottom side. It looks like maybe that's where Rift Herald is actually going to end up, is mid lane, trying to put some gold into the Lucian.
And why not? This Lucian is so strong. He may not have got any kills yet. He is 0-0 and 4, but that is nothing to do with his level of play. It just happens to be the last. It says, oh my god, they even took the rip. Okay, that's... What? Oh no! What the? I have no idea what we just watched. The worst option.
Oh my goodness, that was the worst timeline either. Oh, okay.
Oh my word. As there is the wave thrown out, answered by the Leona ult, but 𝘀cie are able to back off safely. DNK bearing down on them. The Twisted Fate ultimate used as well. Can Jerry find a gold card? They should be able to assassinate one person fairly easily, but Drakthar doesn't want to let them as the culling comes in. 𝘀cie dealing so much damage. Now he's got a Zed on top of him. I don't know how much damage he took. He took enough to go down, but they answer back well on the other side. Ryuk was holding the entire team in place. He pays for it with his life, but now the rest of 𝘀cie is able to reinforce 𝘀rie with the fancy feet, managing to use the entirety of this blue buff area to keep himself alive, and now it's just 𝘀1, more like feed one, as he'll go down.
Another one fight from the side of 𝘀cie around this top lane. So many things about this entire play were just messy beyond belief, but it is 𝘀cie who's somehow able to goad in TS, who are at least relevant in gold, but by no means have a team fighting composition by which you could stand against a Jarvan and a Leona in the earlier stages, and even 𝘀rie, who picked up a couple of kills during that fight, did so much work. DNK tried, was really close by removing 𝘀cie from the beginning of this fight, but 𝘀rie was able to carry when the Lucian went down over the course of that. Once Jerry was out, 𝘂𝑐 was gone, DNK goes down. It probably didn't even need, if he could have found that without the ultimate and used that to escape, that would have been great. 𝘀rie, with even half of another item, probably just cleans this entire fight. But fortunately, 𝘁cie had the resistances able to just not go down immediately to the Rise. Yeah, the Everfrost was
good awareness.
It really was. Yeah, it was phenomenal play out from the likes of 𝘀rie. His sidestepping, his avoidance of the feathers, and the usage of that just to deny a little bit more stalled enough time for Drakthar to be able to carry the last bits of the fight. Now, sizable gold lead for 𝘀cie. This was supposed to be how the beginning of the game led for them when they got that massive advantage in the jungle, but nonetheless, we've kind of stumbled there on our own after just enough time.
It certainly has, but as the chips finally fall to the table, it is a lead for 𝘀cie. Not nearly as big a lead as you might think. In general, the gold totals are just really inflated this game. Both teams coming in on 40k gold at 20 minutes. It's a lot of gold for both of them. Not that the CS is really why, particularly for Team Secret, as they're not doing great in that department. 𝘀rie trying to get the Realm Warp off. Goodbye.
That is the advantage to not having somebody against you with 𝘂𝑐 as the Rise. It's just that, like, if DNK tries to put out damage, you press the Realm Warp and boom, you're out of there as fast as possible. And now, mid pushed as much as possible. They've got Ryuk working on the bottom side, and he should be able to respond to what is the likes of 𝘁cie, even with 𝘁cie having the number of kills that he does with the Blade of the Rune King, the Bladed Steel Caps, and the Sheen done. The push in mid combined with the push in bot, it gives a bunch of space for 𝘁cie, 𝘀rie potentially to put in vision, and more specifically the Dragons, what we're watching for right now, as to whether they're able to capitalize on that.
𝘁cie does get stopped up for a moment, but doesn't take any damage. Jerry moving forward with the gold card, but it's just a Leona. DNK doesn't want to commit the death mark onto it. And they just walk on away.
Yeah. TS trying to wrestle back control of the mid lane after it had been shoved so far in by the likes of 𝘀𝘀. The problem is 𝘂𝘀 actually had shoved bottom lane really effectively, and so that's very deep into their territory. I almost would have preferred to see 𝘂𝘀 push a little bit further. I know it would have probably wrestled them out of the river, but somebody has to respond. In fact, actually, it's going to force 𝘁𝑺 to respond to that wave because there's so much free gold, as that's going to give them third dragon of the game. And in this case, I think Jax getting, cooldown reduction on the ultimate, Jarvan being able to use Cataclysm, the Solar Flare being able to be used by the likes of 𝘁𝑈 as well. There are good ultimates to use that cooldown reduction on, let alone the movement speed you get for it. But specifically when it comes to the big ultimates that you use inside of teamfights, they are very valuable. This is a pretty solid Drake, I think, for the side of 𝘀𝘀 to get. Unfortunately for the side of TS, who are trying to make a response to some extent, but they have been at least lifeless for the most part when it comes to striking on big team objective type things.
Yeah, it's not a good situation here for Team Secret. They didn't get off to that early lead. Their Zed is 3-2, but doesn't have the kind of lead that I think he really needs. He will spot a Realm Warp, as that was just used for vision. No one actually comes in.
It's I don't know how it is that DNK currently is only 4 CS behind 𝘁𝑟Y at the moment, which isn't it's not really a point of how well that the Zed is farming. The Zed is not farming poorly by any means. It's more so that 𝘁𝑟Y just has not been able to catch too much in the last couple of minutes because of how much they've been trying to fight, trying to fish with the gold cards and things like that. 𝘁𝑟Y just gets dragged away from waves, and that will start compiling as well. You think about 3,500 gold lead. If this continues, you talk about 4,000 or 5,000 gold lead naturally without any other really big objectives heading over to the side of 𝘀𝘀. They're still waiting on 𝘂𝘀 to grab that first item, but once they get the Mythic done with the Blade of the Ruin King, that I think is the threshold where all of a sudden 𝘁𝑺 really doesn't have a bunch of bearing in a side lane, and you can start really hammering down the 4-1 type strategy that 𝘀𝘀 can really kind of do a bunch of damage with against the side of Team Secret.
Yeah, it is so hard to answer, not even necessarily the 4-1, the 1-3-1 with that Rise and the Jax is almost unanswerable, and they're just going to move over to Baron. Are they just going to start this? No, they're just going to clear the vision. Glory throws a Q at it, just for fun, I suppose. These guys already have that tier transform, just bothering Mr. Nashor. Very rude.
Ooh.
They do set up a death bush.
Fishing?
Yeah, they have a blast cone. Glory will move in. He's got the shadow, but he can't move for long enough to get to it. With the jungler dead, they will start Baron.
Caught him on a ward over top of the wolf pit. I'm not sure if they knew that was actually there or not, but that is a tough situation for DNK to find himself in, only because that was sweepable. You have the control ward. You just don't expect a ward to be sitting in your wolf camp because it's not that good of a ward. Usually you're not catching someone with that, but this is the one situation in which they're able to snag that that correct spotting for the likes of the Zed and catch him out before he has an opportunity to even move, and that confirms them Baron. Now it doesn't even matter if 𝘂𝘀 has his mythic item. With this Baron push, with this Baron buff and these minions, it's going to be easy enough to set up the 4-1 in extremely easy fashion. So now it's all about just making sure that 𝘂𝘀 can kind of redeploy with the mythic. It looks like the Divine Sunder is finally going to get done, and it's just about lane assignment now. They could do quite a bit of hefty damage, try to clean up the remainder of these outer towers, and maybe look to bully down at least one inhibitor tower, and that's going to be more than enough for them to control all over the map for what is the Cloud Soul coming up in only a minute and a half.
Yeah, and every moment that goes by, it gets worse and worse for Team Secret. There's a Jax, there's a Rise scaling against them. They have a Xayah who is certainly no joke in late game team fights. She can put out a lot of damage, but 𝘁𝑚ine on this Lucian has just been so strong and so clean. It's hard to see any way for BTS to get back into this one.
Quick mention. Oh, actually, good gold card kind of saved 𝘁𝑟Y's life right there. Quick mention about Glory's build path, because it is also rather innovative, which is that Twisted Fate does 0 damage with this build specifically, especially when it's this far behind compared to where it needs to be. Usually it'd be on another item or something like that. And so no magic resistance is actually needed. He went Lucidity Boots, and now he's going full armor stack. You can go into Zhonya's after the stopwatch, and you can go Frozen Heart, and there's nothing stopping that because the additional mana is still scaling for the likes of Rise's damage. And so Glory's still going to hit very hard, hard, but more importantly, basically no one's going to be able to do damage to him. It's not going to be a fun time if 𝘀꽤able to get onto the next 2 items, which it seems like an inevitability at this point. 30 seconds until the next dragon. Again, push in top or push in mid lane and push in bottom lane being worked on by 𝘂cie right now as the vision controls there. Team Secret going to have a rough time trying to contest for this dragon. Feels like they're just going to have to give up the soul and hope that it's not going to be a series definer here.
We have to hope so. But BTS are looking like they're in a strong position to take this 2-0, which was my prediction, just putting it out there. As 𝘀𝗀 escorting the wave in mid, as BTS will also move in on the bottom lane. Dragon is available for them to fall back to as well, so they can just push both minion waves up. 𝘀𝗀, he's in trouble, but the bubble's mistimed. It allows him to flash, and with the Realm Warp, the party bus has arrived. That is one going down immediately. 𝘁𝗫, it's traded back onto 𝘀𝗀. DNK is between them and safety, but I don't think he wants to be there. Slippery enough to get away as they move over to the dragon.
They try to take the dragon without a jungler, and DNK is shoved out. It looks like they just don't care. They're sufficiently satisfied with the fact that you actually got rid of the Baron push relatively well, because 𝘀𝗀 got kind of caught between mid and bottom tower on a shift or something along those lines, because it looked like they were trying to push both at once without the proper setup, which is again, this is a worrying trend for VCS in the future. It's just that, again, their setup around some of the really important stuff usually is a little bit more lax than what it needs to be. And right there, it felt like 𝘀𝗀 got caught out unnecessarily. I'm really surprised TS did not try to take a fight right there. Try to walk into the dragon pit and look to steal it, look to play for something along those lines. Because again, you're still giving a bunch of time over to a team that is all right just taking this game into a scaling aspect. You can see 𝘀řejmě just finished the Frozen Heart as well. The timer really has ticked down, and the Magi's is done as well for him. So, like, even one bad fight is effectively going to condemn you to a life of non-existence inside of the series anymore for Team Secret. They are playing with very, very slim needlework precision necessary just to keep themselves alive right now.
They sure are, as Ryze is not even alone. He has a very strong Lucian, 3 items completed for 𝘀𝗏. This Jax moving towards a 3rd as well. This is so hard to stop for Team Secret. They have to buy time. I think their last hope is a 50-50 or a steal at the Elder. But 5 minutes is a long time in League of Legends, Rebel, and I don't think they're going to get there as the base stage begins.
It is. Another wave coming in, actually. They have more than enough time. They're going to crack at least the 2/3 health mark, which is... the turret's not going to go over 1/3 health now. Oh my goodness.
Boom! Twisted Fate just got popped. They actually can't do much with it, though. They don't have a wave in position as they realm warp towards mid.
All right. Mid-wave to the best of their abilities. 𝘁𝗫 had just back. Actually, 𝘁𝗫 canceled the back, which is kind of a mistake, at least in my mind. If they were able to shove this a little bit faster than what they are right this second, that could have been really lethal, especially for top lane. I'm really surprised they didn't just continue to push up top lane and try to crack that top inhibitor tower. But since 𝘂𝗀 had to leave, he had to respond to the bottom lane to the best of his abilities. That means that there's not much more offense to come about from 𝘀𝗀 this guy. They're slow playing the game. Next Baron's going to be up relatively soon. They got 3.5 minutes until that Elder Dragon comes about. They feel comfortable in this stage, given just how much of a gold advantage they have. They are very strong. Again, it's all about the Ryze and the Jax scaling for the late game, and so 𝘂𝗀, I think, just wants to stay in the side lane as much as possible, because at this point, he should be able to take the Camille in the one-on-one.
He certainly should be. You would definitely hope so. 𝘁𝗫 has played fairly well. The Camille ults have been pretty good so far in this game. Not good enough, or not good enough on his own at least, as we can look at the scoreboard to see where part of the problems are. As they are just getting kind of beaten in some of these roles. But I'm looking at 𝘀𝗀 to close this one out cleanly, and I don't want to see an Elder Dragon spawn, Rebel. I always say it. If you're this far ahead, Rebel, you can't let it spawn. You can't let Elder Dragon spawn.
You do not want that at all. This is probably a team fight that's going to be coming about this Baron. Nice snag facet and
he's got that stopwatch to buy a little bit of time, but he is certainly dead. 𝘁𝗫 locking one up. They will actually be able to answer back onto 𝘂𝗀. This Jax is not having an impact in the team fights. 𝘁𝗫 can't get over the wall, though. Uses the stopwatch to buy the time, but 𝘀𝗏 will clean Camille off the map. DNK is trying to back, but they send 𝘀𝑺 to prevent the recall. And that's all you need to do. You can walk it down mid lane and end the game.
Yep, TP coming in from 𝘀�UE, he's going to be able to help that out in absolutely no issue whatsoever. This is the end of the game right here, right now. Almost certainly would take a miracle of a hold from 𝘂1 and 𝘀NK, who has just now gone back to the base. I really don't think they have it in them right now. Best Zed play you've ever seen got to come out, but it's not going to happen.
You would have to truly add one to the highlight reel, but they certainly won't as he cops a bullet in the back. The Nexus towers fall, and to end our Friday night, it will be BTS taking a 2-0 win over Team Secret, firmly putting themselves in the mid-tier of the VCS. A lovely bit of improvement out of them, but Team Secret's woes just continue.
It's a problem of again that felt like a very egotistic Zed game to come out, especially with no real support. Gold card was there, but that's about all he had in terms of help from the rest of his team. Didn't feel like that was one cohesive composition. And yes, it was played decently. It recovered really well from that early aggression that had come out. But 𝘀𝘀cie, again, they just kind of control all aspects of the game. You don't really have a winning position to actually work with on the side of Team Secret. And that allows them to command every aspect of the map and everything throughout the entirety of the game. And that's a problem. Team Secret can't give themselves zero opportunity to win the game outside of maybe 𝘀NK making a really aggressive outplays and then expect to take against a team like 𝘀𝘀cie who's got all these winning setups for themselves.
Let's bring 𝘀𝘀cie back in to get his thoughts on Game 2 and the series as a whole. Sky looking pretty good.
Yeah, sure. I mean, they definitely had a decent game there. I gotta say, though, I said after the draft, the Zed pick was not 𝘁. It wasn't 𝘁. But the way he played it kind of was. I mean, the level 1 red buff flip that he loses, that's just lunatic setting himself up for disaster. And gotta say, despite that, the game was awkwardly close for Sky. But I mean, win is a win. It is a 2-0. Especially the first game was very convincing of them. And yeah, I mean, now they equalize SBTC on the scoreboard. And I mean, for a bottom tier team that we didn't expect too much of, that is a decent showing.
It sure is. Looking forward for them, do you give them more of a chance for the rest of the split now to potentially move up from 6th, maybe even take a punch at that 4th spot?
I certainly do. I mean, strength of schedule speaks in their favor. I mean, the next game they play is against Team 𝘀𝘀, if I remember correctly. And they also play... Okay, they play servers afterwards. That will be a bit of a tougher task. But sure, I mean... assuming they beat 𝘀𝘀 and they can at least take a game from servers, the game score is also not looking too bad. And I mean, you can definitely fight for 4th place, and you need to have a winner's mentality. I mean, why not?
For sure. Rebel, is there anything redeeming for Team Secret as they look forward in the split?
Really, I think that was the worst that they'd looked all split, not only because they're losing to one of the other bottom teams across all things, but they looked like they were lost in both games. They had 𝘁𝘁 in one, and they was like, okay, what is your game plan? Maybe play around 𝘀𝑺. None of that came to fruition whatsoever. In Game 2, again, it felt really, really crazy that 𝘀NK is picking his Zed with that composition and that they can't make it work in any way. They didn't play around it at all. They seem to be lacking in identity. Their players don't seem to be playing cohesively at all. It feels like a collection of solo queue players that are simply not able to kind of put together the pieces fast enough. And while, yes, there's talent there, like I said, I think 𝘀NK is not bad. I think 𝘀𝑺's pretty good as well. And there are moments there for Nagia and 𝘂1 and Simon and whoever it is. But it's just right now the roster feels like it's in complete pieces, and you got to assemble the team. You can't just like leave it in the little Lego brick stage. You got to have it all together as one cohesive unit.
Yeah, they absolutely do. And sort of moving for one final question. 𝘀𝘀 and Team Secret, probably pretty firmly 7th and 8th. Does 𝘀𝘀 have a chance to rise to 7th?
I think they do. I think one thing Team 𝘀𝘀 has, while they are maybe the worst team on paper and the worst team in this very moment, they have an identity. I mean, they know that they can play around Yoshino at least. And that's like one thing they have already above Team Secret, as hard as it sounds, because Team Secret today against a team that is maybe only one place above them in the standings looked absolutely lost.
I want to say Team Flash also has been improving every single series and every single game that we see them. Not only is it Yoshino, but you talk about Dante's having an okay split, and then 𝘀𝘀, I think, is also somebody to keep an eye on as another like marksman who seems to be rising the ranks in terms of the ability to carry a game. And more importantly, the team is improving. Team Secret is not improving. They seem to be getting worse on a week-to-week basis, which means that if they were to run into each other eventually down the line, especially late in the weeks, all of a sudden Team Flash takes this team at the right time and
yeah, it is very possible. But with that, we will go ahead and say goodnight. We will wrap up this Friday night of VCS action. Thank you so much, Rebel and 𝘀cie, for joining me. Where would we be without people as smart as you leading this one, though? I mean, only one of us got the prediction right. No need to look at who. As we will say goodnight. Once again, thank you for 10,000 Twitch followers. It does mean a whole lot to us to continue to see growth. We do hope you enjoy the show. If you do, please consider donating or subscribing to our Patreon. We are all volunteers. And oh boy, rent is expensive. So please do feel free to help out or join our Discord to get involved in the conversation. Follow us on Twitter. All that good stuff. I'm sure the links will be put in chat. And we will see you tomorrow.